Welcome, everybody. Thank you for listening to The Naked Marketers. My name is Pete Wright, and I'm sitting around the table with...
Megan Strand.
And
Dane Christensen.
See how we have our little fill-in-the-blanks already
everyone.
there? That's so awesome. It's like we're trained monkeys. Which of these people is a trained monkey? Oh, see, that was like foreshadowing to a future study. I can't wait, our future story. I can't wait to talk about this story. I'm giddy with excitement. How is everybody this week?
Awesome.
Yeah? You guys have a good week?
Super excited, Pete.
Are you really? Dang, that's an uncharacteristic level
say.
of enthusiasm from you.
I just wanted to throw something out there.
I like it.
I like it too. I'm very excited about it. Let me tell you why else I'm getting, and this is unrelated to what we're about to talk about, but it's something I think that's critically important to all of us and you know, the next year of our lives. It is the Tron Legacy.
Oh, here we go.
Trailer, which is out today. No, I'm not. I mean, seriously.
You have a running theme going about this 12-year-old feeling like a 12-year-old.
It is, and this is it. This is another example of I'm giddy, kicked in the gut, and 12. It takes me back so perfectly to just the big bucket of popcorn that I just poured all over myself every time I jumped because I was so excited about this movie, and now it's like coming back.
I'm waiting for the redo of Electric Dreams.
Are you really?
Because that one also takes me back.
I bring up Tron, and you bring up Electric Dreams.
Well,
There's
wasn't that
no
the original
comparison.
computer spy espionage story?
That
was great.
Man.
Well, and Corey Haim just died, so you're
may we
R.I.P.
cross ourselves of Corey Haim.
He is such our generation actor.
He really is. I can't. I only associate with him that song that he sang in the bathtub in Lost Boys. I ain't got a home.
Oh yeah.
I ain't got a. You know. I mean, I could do more.
Don't, please.
It's a. It was. I miss Corey Haim. Luckily, we have the DVDs. What do we need to talk about this week?
We have a lot to talk about.
Let's do it.
Are we jumping right into
news? Let's jump right in. Why
Let's
not?
Jump.
Okay, Peter. Let's talk about
okay.
Wired.
This was I got a chuckle out of this. I think it's this is a fun little walk down memory lane. The website is Wired Reread, and it just sort of came out of nowhere. This see, now I started talking about it, and I closed the tab.
It's just wiredreread.com.
Yeah, I got that. But there's typing involved. So wiredreread.com is this Thijs, I'm going to totally butcher his name, Thijs Sondergaard.
I'm sure that's wrong.
Sondergaard, he's a Dane, a 33-year-old Dane, and he's a product manager at ZMags. And he started this website really just to go through all of his 20-year-old back issues of Wired, and he's scanning the advertisements and some of the stories and commenting on them, and it is a fantastic little stroll down how ridiculous we all thought things were cool 20 years ago. He puts a little commentary on them, but mostly it's a chance to look back at these technologies and tools and how we marketed them, how we communicated them, how we were able to really experience technology 20 years ago when before the future happened.
There's a lot of this like kind of cheesy, funny stuff going on. Alice Cooper and his mom dance like a white dude. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's like. Yeah. What
was that about? I mean, why was that cool?
Maybe it was just starting to be pull my dongle, lost the dongle. I mean,
pull my dongle. Sweet.
That's what he names it. The ad actually says lost the dongle, and it's this chiseled statue of a naked man. I mean, it's like maybe it was just starting to become cool or acceptable to. Do funny plays like, I don't know.
But then it seems like, there's been a lot of funny since then, but there's also been a lot of more sort of sobriety, kind of seriousness, as we hit the era.
By far my favorite magazine.
Wired.
It really is. Wired.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And this is, I think this blog in particular, it's fun to kind of look back and frankly, there's stuff in here that's kind of inspiring. As if you're in the business, there's stuff in here that you can take away, some lessons learned, and I think it's. The blog just sort of popped up out of nowhere when I think yesterday or the day before, the team at Wired tweeted about how they were getting such a chuckle about how embarrassed they were out of this, and suddenly it took off out of everywhere.
It's like pulling out your middle school pictures.
Yeah, it's exactly
who's
what it
not
is.
embarrassed by that. But
that's what it is. This is the middle school yearbook of Wired,
That's
and
right.
it is
It's
absolutely worth checking out. So,
It's very fun.
if you're interested in walking back through time, if it is still one of your favorite magazines, as it is mine, definitely check this out.
Someone should
sure.
do that for Omni magazine.
Omni magazine, yeah, that's I never really read Omni magazine.
I don't think I have either.
Oh, all right, never
It's
mind.
like going back in time with National Geographic. Suddenly, it's not funny anymore.
I guess not. Well, anyway, I floated that one out there and it sank. So.
Yeah,
That was good. And for the next lead balloon, Dane.
No, I want to talk about Lindsay Lohan suing E-Trade for $100 million.
All right, what's
for
up with this?
the Milkaholic Lindsay, that Milkaholic Lindsay commercial that was so funny in the Super Bowl that E-Trade did. So she has sued E-Trade for $100 million, saying that was a direct slam on her character because everybody knows Lindsay means Lindsay Lohan, which, okay, A, is a huge, ridiculous assumption about her brand, and B, she's trashing her own brand by, filing this ridiculous lawsuit. And
Well, I guess my question is, what is she protecting, right? I mean, I think intentions are clear when lawsuits come out, right? There's one thing to protect your intellectual property,
right,
your patents and trademarks. But in this case, you have somebody talking about her in something that's funny, something that gets people talking about her, which frankly, Lindsay desperately needs. Her brand ain't that great.
And with a good PR person, I would assume the advice would be, hey, Lindsay, take this opportunity to play on it and show that you have a really good sense of humor and that you're a great person.
Exactly.
This is a totally unwinnable lawsuit.
Even if she wins, let's just say she wins. Stupider things happen in that. It is still an unwinnable lawsuit. She may win the money. She may win a portion of the money. They may settle. She will, in the end, she loses because it shows what she's made of, which is not much.
Exactly. And,
and a desperation
to my point,
for money.
Right. And to my point, when I saw that commercial, Lindsay Lohan did not cross my mind at all. But, now that she's made that connection for me of herself as a something-aholic, thanks, okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, think of all the ways they could have had some sort of aholic of something that, somehow you could call Lindsay, like, let's say it was a redheaded teenager who was an alcoholic in a commercial but all of a sudden, you come up with 5 variations of that and they all fit under parody, which is protected.
Exactly.
Anything that falls into the category of parody has a very hard time.
Yeah.
Copyright holders have a hard time of winning against something that could be called parody. So even if these guys said, yep, we hoped people would think Lindsay Lohan, this is a little parody, you don't win. I don't see how you win. I mean...
Yeah.
And I don't think we should give her any more time than that, but I just wanted to bring it up because I just thought it was so ridiculous. So,
well, I think we need to move on to the next story, which is
let's talk about
a
your
gem.
favorite thing. Let's let Dane talk about it because he found
my gem. So Devo, as I don't know if you all know, I don't know if I'd call it resurgent, but they're going to be back on tour. They're going to be in Coachella. And Mark Mothersbaugh has been more active than I thought he was. He's doing art and he's been doing some movie scores. But anyway, they've got a new album coming out, about to go on tour. I don't know how old they are. They're not young, but they've hired an ad agency from Sweden. Called, is it Mother? A crazy ad campaign that has absolutely nothing to do with music, songs, the new album, anything like that. But it's the Devo Color Study. And they've got this, I assume, fake COO of Devo Inc., Greg Scholl. So if you go to clubdevo.com, there are just a series of focus group ridiculous questions about colors and how they make you feel or what you think of. And there's actually a YouTube video of an actual bringing in people one at a time to, and they have this Swedish COO guy acting very authoritative, but it's just his head on an old TV that he interacts, like asks someone to come in and change the colors and, as though he's really there. So it's all Devo-esque. Everything about it really goes back to the roots of Devo, and apparently the name, which is devolved human being, it was supposed to be some sort of play on, deconstructionism or something. So, kind of this avant-garde approach to get attention and to be viral. And it's hilarious. It's just hilarious.
It is so fantastic.
Peter, you have to talk about the quiz because you do the accent really well.
It has the voiceover when you go to each slide in the quiz. There are 17 questions, and it's the perfect Swedish focus group moderator speaking to you. This image makes you feel fantastic, comfortable, soft, disobedient. It's a picture of clouds in a blue sky. Of course that makes me feel disobedient. And so you click next. And the next question is, which color pill do you think will heal this weakened man? Well, obviously it's the blue pill. I think we all know the answer to that. Which animal would you touch with your bare hand? Well, crocodile, people. Seriously. This is the nature of the exam. And at the end, it gives you
what's your color?
It gives you your Devo color, and my Devo color, like yours, is blue.
Oh,
I think
that makes me feel ununique.
There's a chance that everybody's color is blue. Dane, did you go all the way through it?
No, but I mean, part of what they're doing here, I mean, you can, it really is a parody, I guess, or making fun of focus groups in a way, in a very, very sort of strange, way, and they're kind of. Because you watch it, if you watch the video of them interviewing people, they're kind of making blue out to be the good color.
Yeah.
If you kind of pick it apart, they're sort of making like red to be a bad color and blue to be a good color, and they're using these questions that are nonsensical. But when they pull the people in, it's so worth watching because people take it seriously. And my favorite is when they ask them to sing the note, like give us the pitch of that color. If that color were a sound. And for red, they're like, yeah, it'd be really high pitched, it'd be kind of angry. Can you tell us what that would sound like? And then they show these people just acting like fools, but they think it's very serious. And then blue is cool and calm. So yeah.
But since they're the devolution and their little hats are red, does that mean that they stand for, they're the uprising?
Well, it is. It's the coming up, the robot uprising.
Right. Okay. All right. I get it. Yeah, it's interesting. It'll be interesting to see what the implications are and the impact is for Devo.
Well, it's brilliant. It's
and
a
really,
good chuckle.
in any, in anything you can do to get your message above the totally crowded marketplace of marketing ideas right now is a win.
I'm with you.
Speaking
and
of
by
crowded
the way, because I
marketplaces-
think didn't we talk about in an earlier episode we talked about the Domino's Pizza ad campaign?
Yes.
Did we actually talk about it, or did we talk about talking about it?
That's what I don't remember.
Oh, no.
Let's
We actually
pretend
did.
we talked about it.
Okay, we didn't talk about it, but let's pretend we did.
Okay.
Let's pretend we talked about it. So, well, now I don't want to go back. And anyway, so people know, right? There was a big ad campaign about how horrible Domino's Pizza was. And, they had focus groups. And focus groups said the sauce is like ketchup and the crust is like cardboard. And that was their ad campaign. And it was risky. And, like, wow, can't believe these guys are doing it. I believe it was their fourth quarter profit results doubled.
Yeah, it was sick.
Doubled.
Yeah, I think that's. Don't you think that's a little predictable?
Maybe.
I mean, in some respect, it feels like
It could have gone the other way.
Really,
I believe the three of us all labeled it as completely useless, if I remember correctly.
I don't know. I was curious.
I think it's curious. I think it's not. I don't think it's necessarily edgy, to be honest. But I think what'll be interesting is not how necessarily how this quarter is, because frankly, Domino's hasn't had a major brand change in a long time. I mean, you give millions of dollars to just about any company over a very short period of time, and you're going to see an increase. They could just have, brought out a new, avoid the Noid campaign and had an increase in just because it's been so long. But I think what's interesting is it sustainable?
Exactly.
Once people are able to actually, now that they've tasted the great pizza, is the product good enough to sustain next quarter and the quarter after that?
And you're exactly right. And that's the predictable part, I guess, is that it's gosh, I don't know if it's absolutely certain, but it's very likely that a major product change or brand change provides a short-term bump.
Right.
And that historically has been true. So you're right. It's how sustainable is it? And I guess if the pizza actually is good, we can say, well, the ad campaign, was successful. We can say that Domino's did a good thing by, making a change in the short run. People were ready to try it or give it a test. If it was good, if they really made improvements, then we would expect to see sustainability that goes beyond the marketing and goes to the product, right?
Right.
So
So the bigger question is, have either of you tried Domino's since this brilliant ad campaign?
Not me.
I have not.
And I won't. That's not my thing.
It's not your thing. Pizza is not your thing?
Not Domino's pizza. Sorry, Domino's.
You're pretty
Sorry.
gourmet.
Well,
I am a little bit
Portlanders
gourmet.
tend to be so anti-corporate anyways. I wouldn't
Yeah.
expect you guys to eat corporate
That's
pizza.
right. Go ahead.
Thank you for stereotyping.
Go ahead and
us.
slander us. That's awesome. That's a great.
I love doing it.
Speaking of things that are also, I lost it.
Wow.
There
That
was
was probably going to be a brilliant segue. I'm
it was
sorry.
it was going to be, but I lost it.
It's probably going to be a really creative stretch of.
I think you were talking
connection.
about a big surge and a trend. I think that's where you were going.
Surges
you know what it was? It was surges and trends and things that are flat.
Like pizza.
Yeah, that was
Okay.
the segue, but it just
Going
didn't
with
come
it.
out.
Keep going.
It didn't come out quite right.
Give us some poetry.
Megan found an interesting story on Twitter. The truth about Twitter. What was this all about?
So this was Barracuda Labs, whoever they are, did a study on Twitter users, and they sampled 19 million Twitter accounts. And their definition of an active Twitter user was somebody with at least 10 followers who followed at least 10 people and had tweeted at least 10 times, which is a pretty low bar for being an active Twitter user. Anyway, they found that only 21% of the accounts were active users, and 34% of those people surveyed, or the account surveyed, hadn't tweeted at all, ever. And then 73% of those people had tweeted less than 10 times. So that was interesting. And then the other part that I found fascinating, just in a graphic form, was just what Twitter has done is in terms of new users and new accounts. So 2009, you're looking at this graph of talk about these little flat red hash marks. And all of a sudden, 2009, it takes this huge surge up. And then in 2010, it just flattens right back out. So, they kind of jumped in there in 2009. You've got all these people not using it. But you do have a good portion of users who are, pretty committed and way more active than their definition of active. So it's interesting. It will be interesting to see where this goes as time progresses, if this will, take a steady increase or if it's, not meant to be.
Well, it's an interesting trend. I mean, for those, Twitter seems to be, those of us who are very active on Twitter, it can seem like it's quite a broad channel, and yet I think the audience tends to be of very active users. Clearly, tends to be fairly insular. But there's also this piece where, I see a lot of people who are using Twitter as a feed reader, as someplace to get news while they're not active. They have accounts. They only follow the few people like Oprah and CNN and those that are popular media people who have their Twitter all over their commercials.
Rob Corddry.
Who's awesome.
One of my favorites to follow.
And so you end up with this kind of that kind of niche of people. The broad user base of Twitter is probably more using it as a reader and not a
which is a good point.
Right. So, I think we have more to talk about on this topic, but I think we are. I think our interviewee is about ready to join us. So let's see if we
Awesome.
can get him online. With us this week on the show, we have one of my friends for the last year. I've really enjoyed working with this gentleman, Mr. Perry Gruber. Perry, thank you so much for joining us on Naked Marketers.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
It's a real treat because what you are doing these days, I think, is of great something to take note of for people in marketing and business building. Perry is a respected entrepreneur in the community, and he's the co-founder and CEO of the what he calls the socially responsible NEDWater liquid change. Perry, can tell us a little bit about NEDWater and what it means to be socially responsible.
Absolutely. So NEDWater is a local startup we started back in September, whose purpose it is to generate passive revenue streams for nonprofit organizations through the sale or marketing of a commodity. And so the first commodity that we're working with is water. So we provide a very high quality water product to office places. In return, we take up to 25% of the revenues from that sale, and we give it to nonprofits. 5% of the gross goes to 5 nonprofits, 1 international, 1 regional, and 3 local nonprofits. And then 20% of that 25% goes to what we designate as Better World Partners, which are nonprofits that we think are making the world a better place in unique and interesting ways. And so the purpose of our social enterprise is to generate this passive revenue for nonprofit organizations while making the world a better place, while at the same time providing a really good quality product to the community that's supporting these nonprofits.
That's fabulous.
How did this come about? It seems like, as someone who's known you for the last year or two, that you were doing one thing, building your business, and suddenly you were CEO of this water company. How did water jump into your life like this?
Yeah.
What was so inspiring about it for you?
Well, it's interesting. It's a very interesting story. So I left Intel in 2008 to begin my public speaking, and as you know, Pete, I speak about using a unique approach to spirituality to drive business success. And I realized early on that in order for me to be credible, I would need to have more than just a public speaking business. I would need to have demonstrated what I'm talking about in my speeches in an actual enterprise. And at the time, this was around March of 2008 or 2009, my very good friend and now co-founder, Mark Grimes, came up to me and he said, Perry, it's great what you're doing. I really like the spiritual approach that you talk about in your speeches, but the business model you're using to develop that business, it will never scale. And you'll be constrained by your own capacity to deliver speeches. Your income will be constrained. And I said to him, no, you're right. What type of business do you think I should get into? And he said to me, true to my spiritual beliefs, he said, just wait and something will emerge. And so about 3 months later, in June or July, Mark and I had a unique opportunity. A person approached us with an opportunity to create a water company. And Mark had mentioned some time ago wanting to create a water company, and he suggested to me after that person came to us that this might be a good opportunity for me to invest in exactly the type of business that he was talking about, something that's scalable and something that will make the world a better place. Well, the first time he approached me, I was like, I'm not really interested in water. I'm interested in doing what I'm doing. And then he approached me again and said, Perry, you really ought to take a look at this. And I said, no, I'm not really that interested. And then he came in to me a third time and said, you really have got to look at this. And so I looked at it and it made sense. I mean, it was the perfect opportunity to put in place the practices that I talk about in my speeches and develop something from scratch that could be phenomenally successful, whereby people will come back later and say, wow, how did you do this? And at that point, the demand will be there to support my speaking business. So really, the water company is a proof case, if you will, for the fundamentals that I talk about in my speeches. And it's interesting, Pete, because the way this company is rolling out is perfect proof of what I talk about in my speeches. For example, we started initially with NEDWater. In addition to the great things that we do for nonprofit organizations, we also have this phenomenal water product. And here's how that story unfolded. We began just bottling Bull Run water. And we used to take the Bull Run water and we run it through this ionizing machine, which raises the pH level of the water so that it's a better drinking water product. And we knew all along that here in Portland, the water is so freaking good. It would be really hard to sell a bottled product that's basically your tap water, even if you are value adding it by raising the pH level. Well, in the fall, I was introduced to an entrepreneur who knew of a guy who owned the exclusive water rights to a 3,000-year-old aquifer that lies directly underneath the city of Portland. And that guy, I basically told the same story that I just told you about NEDWater, and he said, you know what you're doing is so fantastic. I was thinking of creating a bottled water product and funding schools with 100% of the profits, but you're doing something that's so much over the top. I want to be part of it. And so he is currently allowing us to use his water rights to bottle the water. So now, instead of using Portland municipal water, we're using this water that comes from this 3,000-year-old aquifer that's essentially been inspected and rated as pure mineral water.
Wow.
It's right underneath Portland. It's 300 feet underneath Portland. We are the only ones that have access to it right now, and it's fantastic water. So in addition to doing this thing that makes the world a better place, we also are serving customers with this great product.
And to be clear, that change is the water that's shipping in NEDWater bottles is now that water.
That's correct. Yes. So the fascinating part of that story is how it came about.
Right.
You know, so Mark and I are setting the intention that this company is going to be over the top. The story is going to be so phenomenally fantastic that people will just go wow and want to be part of it. And to have this it was like 4 months after the company after the company got its first customer. 4 months later, we run into this guy who's got this unique source of water. It's just like, how can we fail? Things are just happening so. It's like the timing and the fortuitous circumstances are lining up to allow the company to be successful. It's really great.
I'm interested, and then I'll stop monopolizing the conversation for Megan and Dane. But I'm interested as somebody who's had. I mean, you've got decades of experience at Intel and Bonneville Power in marketing and communications, and I'm interested what. Given your current philosophy on sort of communicating with intentions and building business with intention, what did you take out of those experiences in terms of, if anything, in terms of tactics and practice that you find applies in your current venture? How do you get business done, in this new way, and what has helped you from your past?
First of all, our perception is a story, and we either accept the stories and perceptions of what we've seen in the past, or we choose to create new stories for ourselves and our enterprises that create the future we want to live into. What I learned at my previous organizations, the Marine Corps, Bonneville Power, and at Intel, is that business the way it's been done is very popular. It can be very lucrative. But as many enlightened people, not spiritually enlightened, but like aware people are beginning to realize, there are tremendous costs to doing things the way we've done them that are not accounted for. And so individuals like myself who are interested in accounting for those costs and creating net positive benefits as opposed to positive benefits with hidden repercussions or hidden negative outcomes are interested in creating new stories. Now, markets are conversations. They're not places. And so when you combine a compelling story in the context of a market, which is a conversation between human beings, all of a sudden you generate huge potential for outcomes that you can't even imagine. And if you can live in this place, where anything is possible with regard to your enterprise, your intention around building a business, and you allow the business to act as an organic entity bringing to you opportunities, if you can, and if you can see those opportunities as opportunities and be prepared to seize them when they emerge, all of a sudden, it's kind of like how's that saying go? The tail wagging the dog. All of a sudden, you are being pulled by opportunities as opposed to seeking out or trying to create or trying to force or trying to manipulate events into opportunities. I guess that's the first thing. And then the second thing is to do your best. This is hard in our American society, but do your best to remain optimistic. The more optimistic you can remain, the more you're shaping your perspective, which is nothing than a story, to create the potential for more positive things to come your way. If you're dwelling in fear, or if you're concerned about where the next dollar is going to come from, or you're worried about failing, or you're worried about losing market share, or you feel that market share is a zero-sum game where there's this fixed amount of gain that you can get, and if you don't get it, someone else is going to get it. If you live in those types of perspectives, you're going to create a certain type of enterprise. What Mark and I are creating is an enterprise based on basically optimism and alignment to ideals that create a better world. And so what I learned from, I guess to summarize, what I learned from my experiences in the past is that there's a better way to do it. And we are demonstrating how that better way looks, essentially.
That's awesome.
That's fascinating. Are you, so, I was really engaged in what you're saying. I just think that's such an interesting way to approach what it is to, to communicate with your customers, or I guess, a definition of marketing, sort of. But do you think in the larger sense that is the opportunity for companies to embrace social responsibility, is that it just it lends, I guess, that a whole new layer or a new element to the conversation that they're trying to have. That, I mean, you just had this great, beautiful, I think, description of what it means to engage and to move that conversation. And your company is built around social responsibility. But how about a company like, I don't know, maybe Intel, but they're going to adopt socially responsible practices? Is that the opportunity for them as they do that?
I had this conversation when I was interviewing Mark for a book that I'm writing that's going to come out about what we're doing. And allow me to go on for a minute about the nature of corporations and why I think what you're describing may not be possible for established corporations. When you look at the culture of a corporation, a large organization, there is a lot of fear and cynicism and resignation that exists in those organizations, mainly because there isn't, in most cases, there's not a direct tie between what the individual human being is doing in that organization and the results that show up. Even the CEO in most of these large organizations doesn't have a whole lot of control over the levers or over the direct inputs that produce the results that are produced, whether it's the stock price, market share, or actual products that roll out of the organization. And so when there's this disconnect, there is a propensity, I think, for people to feel helpless. And they're already living in a society or a culture that is oriented towards cynicism and resignation and fear. And so it's very difficult, even for an organization like an Intel, which is doing a lot of great things out there with regard to corporate social responsibility. It's difficult for an organization even like that to embrace the kind of perspective that I'm talking about, because they're so moribund by an existing culture that's so based on this cynicism, resignation, negativity, and other perspectives or perceptions or stories that are based on those things. That being said, so the question is, can an organization as large as an Intel, or even medium-sized organizations that already have momentum developed by their cultures, can they develop the type of perspective that I'm talking about, or the type of story that I'm talking about? I'm not sure. But
Well,
I'm not sure.
And I think there's a corollary question there too, though, Perry, which is, how does an organization like NEDWater, based on intention and social responsibility, scale effectively in light of what naturally happens when you introduce larger teams, larger staffs, and more layers of management?
That's a really good question, and this is why. So I also have, in addition to being a heavy spiritual person, I also have an MBA, so I have some practical grounding in what we're talking about here. When you begin to build an organization, it's really hard to avoid. You're right. It's very hard to avoid those dynamics. And so one of the things that we're attempting to do is to build an organization that is not an organization. It's like a group of people who are coming together as independent contributors, not employees, who are working together to make a world a better place. So practically speaking, in business language, the people who will be quote unquote employees of NEDWater will be 1099 employees. So they'll be everyone will have a contractor status. Now, when you if you jump out of the story that I'm saying now into the traditional business story, when you hear 1099 or contractor, most people feel a lot of uncertainty and ambiguity around that kind of status. We are, as human beings in the United States, we are used to the perceived stability and comfort of being a quote-unquote employee. The problem is, when you're an employee, you don't have a whole lot of control. And you're dependent upon those who have control for your income. As a contractor, conversely, you have all the control. You can decide whether or not you want to get up in the morning and do the work. Now, of course, your income is going to be dependent on that, but there's a tremendous amount of freedom and flexibility for the individual when they're working with a group of people, all of whom are responsible for themselves. And there's a lot more empowerment in that environment than there is when you're an employee drawing a paycheck from an organization that is hiring you. Can you see that?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
I think that's everything you're saying, I think, is very fascinating. I actually watched one of the workshops you gave to a group of engineers, some engineering association in town last night. And it struck me that you seem like this great combination of like a Seth Godin type talking about, addressing your fears and moving toward, what Seth calls the resistance, and kind of just going for it and creating your own reality. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with Simon Sinek, but he talks a lot about starting from your why, and that great companies start from their why, which is kind of your core purpose. So I guess my question for you in dealing with NEDWater is, do you find that you are starting from your core purpose as you're, doing quote unquote marketing, just for lack of a better, as you're having these conversations and creating this reality that is NEDWater? Are you starting with that purpose? Are you starting with the water? Like how do those conversations come about, from a sales perspective?
Right. So that's a good question. And it's a dance is really what it is. So when you may find this really interesting. When we talk to our purpose of NEDWater obviously is to make the world a better place and to support nonprofit organizations. But there's another purpose that we're gearing towards, and this may be the why for us. We are attempting to change the way business is done, and we do that through water. So when we put a dispenser and a 5-gallon bottle in an office in a business, they're benefiting, number one, from the great product that we're providing to them, the quality of this water. But they're also benefiting. Their brand is benefiting from being aligned to an organization that is making the world a better place through these nonprofits. So there's this automatically there's this CSR component that attaches to their brand by being part of NEDWater. And they're getting that brand hit by paying at the most $6.75 a bottle for the water plus $10 for a dispenser. So it's a really cheap way to do what you would normally pay thousands of dollars for a consultant to help you do. But then Mark and I come behind that water service and we say, okay, now that you're buying our water, let's look at how we can identify your interests as a business and enhance your brand by going after those interests. For example, we're working with Portland Roasting, right? Even as we speak, we've got a Twitter conversation going on with Portland Roasting around a passion that the owner of Portland Roasting has, which is building wells in Africa. So Portland Roasting is a local coffee manufacturer. I don't know if you're aware of them, but the owner, Mark Stell, is really interested in generating revenue to support building water wells in Africa. And he has this event that he began last year called Walk for Water. Walk for Water is an event where Portlanders can come to the waterfront and pay $20 per individual for the privilege of carrying a 5-gallon jug of water 3.1 miles around the Willamette River to experience what it's like for an African woman to get water for her family. The average distance that an African woman travels to get water for her family is 3.1 miles. And so along this course, Portlanders will engage with interpretive centers that are oriented around the Millennium Development Goals. There'll be this nonprofit pavilion where they can learn more about water issues, and they're going to be showing the movie Flow at that event. So Mark started this event last year, Mark Stell, at Portland Roasting. And this year he wants to increase the number of people participating in the event. Now, when we first talked with Mark's salesperson, we were interested in partnering with Portland Roasting in order to get them to become a NEDWater customer. But we found out right away that Mark Stell's interest and our interest were really aligned. And so we talked with Mark about social networking and how Twitter and Facebook can enhance their brand and the results of their event, because markets are conversations. And Mark Stell was not taking advantage of Twitter and Facebook and other social networking methods to get the word out and to get people involved in the conversation of making the world a better place through these water wells via this event. So we went and we talked with Mark about how to improve his personal Twitter interaction and Facebooking interaction. And then he was so excited about what we shared with him that he had us come and talk to his entire staff about it. And then I used one of my speaking opportunities at a local Rotary to talk about his World Water Day event. So my point is that all of these engagements with Portland Roasting are what we do with what we will eventually be doing with our other customers. Because what we're trying to do is change the shape of business. We're trying to help our business customers realize that by engaging in the market conversations, by engaging with individuals via Facebook, Twitter, and other social networking opportunities, and doing that around causes that make the world a better place, you can be a more successful business and contribute to making the world a better place. And there's a lot of research that shows that people want to patronize businesses that are doing this. So for the cost of what it would normally, for what it would normally cost a business to go to like Sparklets or Sierra Springs, they not only get a better water product because it's this unique mineral water source here that's local, but they also get this, like 50 to 75 years of CSR, cause marketing, and now social networking expertise to enhance their brand. It's a great deal. So
That's amazing. And you're not just coaching, you're also demonstrating. So I think that's the power in what you're doing. It's not that you're, I'm an MBA teaching you from on high how to do this. That's the beauty of what you're doing is you're using this company as proof of how it can work and teaching by example, which is amazing.
Yes, exactly. And so the why is Mark and I want to transform the way business is done to make the world a better place. We're sick and tired of seeing for-profit organizations myopically focused on the bottom line, or worse, using CSR and cause marketing and social networking as a way to increase the bottom line instead of making the world a better place. They've got it backwards. You should make the world a better place, and as a result of that, you will be financially rewarded. So that's the one thing. And then on the other thing, the why is we're sick and tired of seeing nonprofits out there that aren't doing the job they're meant to do. There are a lot of nonprofits out there these days, and I could name some names, but I'm not going to, who are more interested in their self-perpetuation than the mission that they originally founded for. And so we want to change these two stories.
Perry, that I think there are two things that you're talking about that I really want to dive into, and the first is, you have a very defined bent on appropriate and strong strategic partnerships. I mean, that's it. It seems like every customer, from what the way I hear you talk about this, every customer is a powerful strategic partner or a potential powerful strategic partner. Can you give us some tips on how you evaluate your customer relationships in light of strategic partnership? What do you look for in somebody who is going to be a really good customer versus somebody who may raise some red flags?
We only do, the first priority is we only do business with people we like. Markets are conversations. Conversations are made up of people. Have you ever had a conversation with someone you don't like?
Yeah, if I had a dime.
It doesn't feel very good to have conversations with people you don't like. And if markets are conversations, and those conversations are equal to revenue, why would you want to work with people you don't like? So we don't work with people we don't like. That's the first, or I should say it the other way around, the positive way. We only work with people we like. That's the first thing. The second thing is we don't have a list of criteria that we're looking for, because you never know. That's what's so great about human beings. You never know who is going to be someone that takes your purpose to the next level. You never know. So the way that I guess the short answer is I can't give you a list. All I can say is that trust your heart, work with people that you like, stay optimistic, and the people that you're supposed to work with will show up. And that's what's happening with NEDWater.
Well, that's in many respects, that's exactly the answer I was hoping for, because when I'm working with clients, we have the same discussion, which is, it invariably ends with, let's stop focusing so hard on measurement and, return on investment in any particular partnership, and just focus on being open to anything and everything.
Yes.
And I guess the only thing I would add to your first point is, we only work with people we like is, really, we want to like everyone. We're predisposed to want to have a positive relationship with everyone we come across. And I think that, rather than coming across with this sort of air of cynicism and skepticism, and this may not work, it's finding opportunities where some may be hidden.
Absolutely. And it's funny because you're absolutely right, Pete. And a good example of that is just before I graduated from my MBA program, I was working with one of my fellow alumni on potentially starting a business, and the relationship started moving forward toward what we were thinking about doing. But over the course of about, let's say, several weeks, it became obvious that our styles of approaching business were really different, and our personalities were really different. And so at the end of that several week period, the relationship just naturally kind of dissolved. He acknowledged that it wasn't a good fit for him. I acknowledged that it wasn't a good fit for me, and we just kind of went our separate ways. And so it's not like Mark and I go, that guy we don't like and we're not going to work with him. We begin working with people, and if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out because it wasn't meant to work out. And so far, that dynamic, that mechanism, has provided us with people who are really aligned with what we're doing, like the owner of this aquifer, or like the young guy who is currently working with us in R&D to produce a carbonated beverage from this water source, or my next door neighbor who turns out to be the president of his own manufacturing company, who's helping us come up with a solution to get carbonation into our water system. So these type of fortuitous happenings as a result of conversing with human beings naturally occurs. It's not like we're going out and looking at, okay, who do we like, who do we don't like? It's like, let's engage with this person and see how it goes. And if it doesn't go, it wasn't meant to go. And if it goes, wow, we really like this guy. That's how it works.
I want to talk a little bit about something that you mentioned a few moments ago about you don't do corporate social responsibility to make an impact in the bottom line, but if you do it for the right reasons, then it does have an impact. And, we've had conversations on this show already about, this, people aren't stupid, and they're moving toward a place where they're demanding authenticity and trust between themselves and companies. So I wanted to kind of touch back on that because I think it's so important just that, people are looking for companies that are authentic and are doing things for the right reason and aren't just in it for the bottom line. I mean, if you want to point to studies, there's plenty of them out there that, where people are choosing one company over another for those very reasons. So I think what you're talking about is so important. In terms of authentic marketing, and again, just to use that term for lack of a better way to say it, but that's really where people are moving. So I think, doing that by example is huge.
I totally agree with you, Megan. In fact, there was a great example of this. I believe it was last year or early this year, where Starbucks created. I'm using the name because it was a very prominent example. Starbucks had created a Facebook fan page touting the fact that they were going to give 10 cents or 25 cents of every cup of coffee sold to some good cause. And at first it started out great. There were people lining up all over the place on Facebook talking about this, and the conversation was really open. So there were no restrictions on who could post on the Facebook page. And then all of a sudden, some people started getting up there and saying, "Are you freaking crazy? 10% of a $5, 10 cents of a $5 cup of coffee? Come on, you should be giving 30 cents or you should be giving 50 cents, of course, these people have no idea about the costs incurred in producing a $5 cup of coffee. 10 cents might be like 50% of the net of that product. But the point is that the people on this Facebook page were beginning to the conversation was going negative on Starbucks. And rather than authentically addressing that conversation, what happened was Starbucks shut the page down.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Oh, they didn't.
Yeah, and guess what happened? The people who were opposition went and started their own page.
Yep, sure they did. Of course they did.
So when you're talking about
Oops.
Yes, when you're talking about getting into this space where markets are conversations and where authenticity reigns, you really need to be prepared to be truly authentic and not be afraid. This goes back to what I was talking about corporate culture, where there's fear, cynicism, and resignation. You can imagine the higher ups at Starbucks going, "Oh my God, this thing's getting out of control." The lawyers get involved, and the first things the lawyers want to do is shut things down, rather than authentically conversing with folks about it. You think the Starbucks CEO could have got on Facebook and say, "Look, guys, 10% represents 30% of our net, or whatever it happens to actually be." And we can't give 50 cents because this is how the mathematics works. Just having an authentic conversation about what the deal is rather than shutting it down. So I totally agree with you, Megan. Authenticity is so important. And if you're authentic, I think that as we go further into the future, authenticity is going to reign, period.
Perry, we have, I think we've just about exhausted our time with you, but I wanted to ask one last question. You've talked a lot about the power of social media and what it has done for you and your business. I wonder if you could share with us just a few words on how you use the tools that you use, and in that context, tell us how we can find you if we want to learn more about NEDWater and tweet with you and Facebook with you and share some of those thoughts.
Sure. You can find all about NEDWater at our website, which is NEDWater, November Echo Dog, water.net. And you can find me at Ned, November Echo Dog _Perry at Twitter. So it's at Ned _Perry. And then I'm on Facebook under my name. And as far as social media is concerned, we use social media right now to just heighten the conversation of making the world a better place. We don't talk so much about NEDWater. Social media is, we're using social media to help our water customers become successful as companies. We're not using it so much to help NEDWater become successful. NEDWater is growing because of the story we're telling and the way we're helping businesses become successful themselves.
Perry, thank you so much for your time today and sharing these thoughts with us. It's a fascinating conversation.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, this was great.
That Perry Gruber, I'll tell you, I can't get enough of him.
He's fantastic.
He is
I'm loving what
fantastic.
he's doing.
So I encourage everybody to go follow Perry and learn more about what NEDWater Liquid Change is doing. NEDWaterLiquidChange.net, and we will certainly have Perry back in the future to check in and see how the business is doing, how the role model for socially responsible business is changing the way partnerships are made and built.
And I feel like I'll just throw this in that his enthusiasm and his positive approach were a little infectious to me. I hope they were infectious to listeners.
Absolutely.
He's good stuff.
Now, let's talk about tools. What are you guys using these days that are helping you build these beautiful, powerful strategic partnerships?
I'll jump in. I've got to say that I have been a LinkedIn member for a long time because back in the day, it was the place to go, if you wanted your resume out there. That's sort of my perception of how it started. And I've been, every time somebody sends me a LinkedIn invitation, if I know who they are and they're a decent person, I'll accept it. So I've got a decent network. But recently I was like, hey, maybe I should use this LinkedIn thing and post a question to, kind of help me with my blog series. And I will tell you, I have gotten a gajillion responses, most of them really amazingly good. And I've got a lot of great contacts. I've met with some people from this LinkedIn thing. And I have to say, I'm liking LinkedIn because Twitter, I love Twitter. Twitter feels a little bit manic to me. Like LinkedIn seems much more directed. And I know there are ways to manage the mania of Twitter. But I don't know. I'm really liking LinkedIn. So it's kind of an old tool made new, and I'm sure everybody except me has done this. But in LinkedIn, there's a questions feature, so you can either ask or answer questions. And if you answer enough questions, they'll change you to an expert status. I'm assuming it's for a given period of time. So that's kind of a neat feature that I didn't even know existed. And I've linked to my Twitter to my LinkedIn, so now my LinkedIn's getting updated all the time without me doing anything.
Well, that's awesome.
Ta-da!
Yeah. Well, and you are bringing up a couple of points. The first one is how stale LinkedIn was for many, many years. There was a long time where you put your resume up there and LinkedIn didn't do anything, while you had Twitter and you had Facebook and all these places where you could have ongoing discussions, and LinkedIn had nothing. It was only, I think, last year that LinkedIn released the discussions and questions features.
And the groups are awesome too.
The groups, right? I mean, that's all pretty new, and I think
maybe that's why I wasn't using it.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just sort of been maturing, I think, and I'm with you. I probably don't use it enough, but I have a good, I feel like I have a good network, and when I need it, they're there. Well,
that's the thing. If you have something specific, you put it out on Twitter, and you get very little. The other thing I like about LinkedIn is I'm able to. And I know you can do this on Twitter too, but I'm much more able. Most of my contacts are in the Portland area, so I'm able to shoot out a question to like the Portland OEN group, the entrepreneurs group, and so I'm getting local contacts, which is what I wanted. So that that felt really useful and easy.
Well, and let me say, I'm really glad that Megan brought this one up. I think this is a great one to talk about. I think. I can be guilty of being sort of a gadget glutton and, bring me lots of gadgets. But I think one of the things that we're really trying to do, even with this show, and I'm trying to do in my own life, is keep it simple enough. Make sure that we have the right reasons for using the right things, and we're not trying to just jump on, a shiny new object. And that's been a recurring topic for us, and will continue to be. And, LinkedIn isn't everything to everybody, and it isn't the greatest tool ever invented, but it does have a unique place, and it doesn't take a whole lot to use it or to get some use out of it. And as Megan brought that up this morning, I mean, I actually had gotten into my LinkedIn account yesterday to try to make a couple updates and make sure things looked okay. And I think I need to go back there and do a little bit more. And I have yet to actually, create that Twitter link back and forth. So, just a few of those things. But it's kind of the place where you can, hook up with people you used to work with that you have no real social, reason to, they're not going to want to see your Facebook updates. They may not care at all really about your Twitter feeds. But there might be some point a year from now when somebody, needs something, and and you've got that connection. And then to Megan's point about groups, that probably is the most dynamic opportunity available on LinkedIn. So something I think for me and probably for everyone just to take a second look at and go back and figure out if you need to give a little more attention to LinkedIn and if it can do more for you than it currently is.
Yeah, particularly
Absolutely.
if it's been a while. Enough has changed that you should at least make sure your information is up to date and that you're connected. I have a tool that I've been using for years now for Google Apps. For those who aren't familiar with Google Apps, it's essentially a way to take the Google Gmail infrastructure with Google Calendar and Google Docs and Google Mail, Gmail, and put your own domain around it. It used to be called Google Apps for your domain, and so, for example, my domain is fifthandmain.com and my email is fifthandmain, but it's essentially, all the services provided by Google. It's essentially a Gmail account. It works great. Well, that's sort of the old news. This week there was some big news, or last week now. Google Apps Marketplace launched at the Google One Campfire event that they had last week. And it is an opportunity for third-party developers to develop applications that integrate and install inside of your Google Apps installation. So, for example, you can bring in contact information, from Salesforce. You can bring in mass email information from Vertical Response. You can, bring in financial information from QuickBooks Online. It is I think this is a real boon for developers to get into a technical ecosystem that allows them really to compete on a level with Microsoft Exchange. And I think it's a blow across Exchange, the bow of Exchange, because the price is incredible for Google Apps per user. And the tool is just seamless, streamlined, and really rock solid. So I recommend you give Google Apps a shot. If you are interested, if you have your own domain, if you are running a small business and you need to provide email, don't set up a Yahoo account. Don't set up a My Business. I'm a business owner at yahoo.com. Please don't do that. It looks terrible. It is a terrible thing for you to do. This, to get started with Google Apps, it's absolutely free. Just go to google.com/a. And you can set up a brand new account and have your own domain on your email in literally minutes. It is really useful. You guys are apps users,
Very cool.
right? You guys are.
I'm an apps user because you set me up on it.
Oh, that's right. I did. So you are.
Thanks, Peter.
You are officially converted.
I'm converted.
Yeah.
Are you Dane? Are you Dane at hotmail.com?
No, I'm not
Please.
at Hotmail. No,
Please.
but thanks.
Be lucky you're in Salt Lake if that's the truth. Crying out loud.
I'm on the Apps Marketplace website here since Pete brought this up earlier, and this is actually just a fascinating evolution for Google, and obviously a big, I would imagine, long-term moneymaker. I hope anyway. A lot of these add-ons. I looked at a CMS solution. Tactile or CRM, customer relations management, that's $10, I guess, as a plugin, or $10 a month.
Right.
Oh.
And I'm assuming Google's taking something off the top of that. So if a free apps foundation, this new sort of the marketing approach of free is a very interesting thing to hit the market in the last couple of years, where you get mass adoption by offering for free, but then somehow, there's the upgrade to the more expensive or to the plugins or to the features.
Right.
And so this makes, from a business standpoint, a lot of sense. It's kind of interesting it hadn't happened sooner, but they're launching here with a whole bunch of products.
The App Store, it's the wave of the future. Everybody's got one.
Yeah, it's all about integration too. And can I just say for the record, and I know I'm probably talking to the choir, but I met with a company this week, had a fabulous website. They were very professional. They knew what they were doing. They don't have analytics on their website. They have no way of tracking anything. And I'm like, huh?
Yeah.
They'd never even heard of it. And so if you don't have Google Analytics on your website, you have to get it, because otherwise, how are you going to know who's coming to your site and when and how often, and if the things you're doing are working as far as driving traffic to your website? And it's free.
We should do a whole show on getting your business off the ground and all the tools you can make use of.
That'd be a long show
for free. Well, I mean the basics. I think that would be a fun show. We could bring on some people to talk about. Let's see. What else do we have to talk about as we wrap up the show here? I don't think we have anything. I think we're done.
I think that's it.
I think we put a fork in it. How do we find you, Mr. Christensen?
Dane Christensen. I'm at strike10media.com, strike10media.com. And let's see, my Facebook fan page is Strike10.
Twitter
is Altadane.
One of these days we'll get all of them.
Yeah, I just wanted to keep it easy.
That's right. We need the jingle. Megan?
I am Megan Strand at encouraged.com, and that's encouraged with an I-N. And on Twitter, I'm at Megan Strand, MEGANSTRAND.
Excellent. I am Pete Wright. I'm at fifthandmain.com, and you can find me on Twitter at Pete Wright. Please follow up. You can also find the show on Facebook. Just search for The Naked Marketers on Facebook. You'll find us, and also at thenakedmarketers.com. You'll find that's where we're archiving the shows themselves. You can go listen to the shows online. You can subscribe to the show in iTunes. You can find us on Facebook. Pretty much any way you want to consume the show, you can find it in those places. So thank you very much, everybody, for listening. And I think on behalf of Megan and Dane and me, we are out of here.